Well, here we are, tasting wine with Pete and Dave. Again, this week, sorry to say, Pete isn't with us, but I'll endeavor to get through these tastings. And we've got a lineup of 10 great Australian wines here. First one we're going to start out with is the Leo Baring Clare Valley Riesling. Now, all of these wines today have a bit of age on them, just a bit. This is a 2008 vintage, and the first thing I get on the nose is some real big lime characteristics, typical of a Riesling. Boy, that is absolutely fantastic, and a good dose of acid in that yet, which indicates to me that Riesling is going to go for a number of years yet. Absolutely beautiful. I'd probably rate that I don't know, 8 or a 9. Beautiful Riesling, that one. Next one I've got here is a Clare Valley Leasingham Bin 61 Shiraz. Now this is a 2008 Clare Valley Shiraz. This has had 18 months of oak. Lovely nose. Just a little bit subtle. Not getting a big berry fruit. That's very lovely. Very dry characteristic of that wine, dry structure. It's very complex. And it's nice fruit. And I think a very well balanced oak with that wine. I think this wine may be not as big as some of the Barossa or McLaren Vale fruit, but maybe a little bit more subtle. Probably would appeal to those European lovers, wine lovers. I detect a little bit of those sort of characteristics in that Shiraz. Very interesting. I think it would probably age for another several years without a problem. That was the Leasingham Bin 61 Shiraz, 2008 from Clare Valley. Next wine here is the K Brothers. Now this is the Basket Press Shiraz from McLaren Vale. 2011 vintage, this one. Yeah, I get a little bit more fruit out of this. Definitely a bit more fruit in that wine. And I get that sort of white pepper, some black dark cherries, a bit of mint. Very nice wine. Next two wines I've got here are Wynn's Coonawarra, the Shiraz. Now I've got the Black Label 2010 vintage, and then after that we're going to try the Coonawarra 2008. Lovely fruit. Yeah, and I get some of that typical, get this sort of chalky kind of a taste on the palate as well, which is typical of that Coonawarra. Now, that was big fruit, 2010. Of course, beautiful year, 2010, all over Australia. Don't get much better than that. But 2008 was a good vintage as well. Both of these wines were making by the Wynn's winemaker, Sue Halder. So see if we can pick the similarities in these two wines. Oh, lovely fruit on that. 2008, a couple of years older. Still some great tannin on that, and a mouthful of fruit as well. And the middle palate on that is very, very nice. It kind of lingers for a while, so gives me some indication of what that 2010 is going to turn into. Absolutely lovely wine. I think I'd prefer a nice slab of protein, nice big steak with that Shiraz, that's for sure. Okay, the next wine we've got here is Penfolds. Now this is the Bin 389. The Bin 389, of course, is a Cabernet Shiraz. And this is a 2008. The fruit from this wine comes from South Australia. South Australia, they've got a pretty big resource down there of fruit, so 389 is always a stunner. 2008, good vintage. Oh, wow. That's an incredible mouthful of fruit and lovely wine. That's going to go a long way. Okay, the next wine we've got here is Katnook Estate Coonawarra Cab Sauv. Now, this is a 2008. Not as big of berry fruit sort of flavors as on the nose, or I should say, not as big of berry bouquet on the nose. I get that traditional Cabernet black currant flavor right up at the front there. And there's some real nice tannin in that wine as well, which again indicates to me for a 2008 vintage, this is going to go a number of years yet. Absolutely great balance in that wine. Now the next one we've got here is a 2008 Pepperjack Cabernet. Now this is from the Barossa Valley. I expect I'm going to get a little bit bigger fruit out of this. In fact, probably a little bit bigger of everything. And I get that straight away on the nose. Again, those very, very typical and traditional black currant. But that wine just seems to be a little bit more juicy, a little bit more full of flavor, a little bit more middle palate. Absolutely lovely. If you like a Cabernet, either one of those Cabernets are highly recommended. Fantastic wines. Now, carrying on with the Cabernets, we're going to go back to Wins. Now, this is Coonawarra Cabernet, 2008 vintage. Now, this is the 53rd vintage of this Wins Coonawarra Cabernet. So they've been there for a while. Big, big berry fruit flavors. Wow. And some beautiful, absolutely beautiful tannin there. Again, Sue Halder is the winemaker and responsible for that absolutely beautiful job. That will sell her for another, well, who knows, 10 years without a problem. Now, just as a little comparison, we're going to try the 2010 here. This is the 2010 Black Label Coonawarra Cabernet. Big fruit on the nose. Again, 2010 was absolutely beautiful. And I detect that's going to go in the same direction. That will be a big wine. Looking forward to that in another 10, 12, who knows, maybe 15 years. That's absolutely fantastic. Well, that's it for today. We'll see you next week. Hopefully Pete will be back. See you then.